Discover the incredible worship of Yahweh before Israel, 3 sacred truths exposed by God's plan. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, the Israelites stood trembling before the shores of the Red Sea. Their hearts raced with disbelief as they beheld the miraculous power of Yahweh. Waters parted and then reclaimed in a tumultuous wave, devouring Pharaoh's chariots. The air crackled with divine energy, and the memory of their oppression surged in their minds like an unquenchable fire. Moses, appointed leader under God's sovereign guidance, raised his arms high to the heavens, his heart swelling with reverence and gratitude. "Hear me, O Israel," he called out. "Yahweh has triumphed gloriously." In that space, with the breath of reverent awe still hanging in the air, Moses began to sing. His voice, rich and vibrant, echoed against the dunes, reverberating with the relief and joy of his people, who had tasted liberation from their tormentors for the first time in generations. "The Lord is my strength and my song, he has become my salvation." They joined, their voices rising in a harmonious chorus, eager and fervent. Each word sang of their deliverance and spoke to the profound truths of liberation, the unmistakable sovereignty of Yahweh, unparalleled and ultimate, standing victorious over the gods of Egypt whose arrogance brought their ruin. The wilderness loomed ahead, the uncharted expanse unfolding like an ancient scroll, terrifying yet sacred ground where their covenant with the Almighty would deepen. As Moses sang, he beckoned forth memories etched in their hearts, the groans of bondage, the desperate cries that pierced the heavens, rising from the land that had known only affliction. This was no mere celebration, it was a renewal of their covenant, a declaration of identity, defining them not as slaves, but as the beloved of Yahweh. The atmosphere shimmered with spiritual intensity, a powerful warfare emanating from their praises. Around him, jubilant women and children danced with abandon, surrounding Miriam, his sister, who took her tambourine in hand, her voice ringing out with exuberance, "Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously." Their claps did not just echo through the air, they were thunderous affirmations of promises yet to unfold, carrying divine whispers of God's guidance through the wilderness before them. Yet beneath their exuberance, doubts flickered like shadows. The wilderness stretched ominously before them, daunting and unseen, riddled with uncertainties. Would the same God who had delivered them sustain them on the journey ahead? What trials awaited on the path toward the promised land? Moses locked eyes with his people, reading the mixture of joy and trepidation painted on their faces. This moment of celebration could not erase the truths that lay ahead, yet in their collective worship, they found strength in their unity and in the promises of Yahweh. As the final notes of their song faded into a sacred stillness, an unbreakable bond formed amongst them, a fellowship held together by faith and hope. For what would the unfolding of God's plan reveal to them? What other truths awaited them in the journey to come? Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. With distant mountains whispering of their future, they found themselves on the edge of their destiny, worshippers standing united in anticipation, ready to discover the grandeur of God's divine purpose as they stepped into the wilderness. And as the echoes of their song faded, a profound silence enveloped the camp. The Israelites stood before the expanse of wilderness, a land both desolate and full of promise. The air grew thick with anticipation as visions of the promised land danced in their hearts, yet the weight of uncertainty hung alongside them. An uninvited but familiar companion, Moses, divinely appointed and filled with the Spirit of Yahweh, turned to face his people once more. His countenance bore the marks of sincerity and resolve, for he knew that the journey before them would not simply test their strength, but their covenantal faith. "Gather round, O children of Israel," he implored, "for we must prepare our hearts. Yahweh has not brought us this far merely to lead us into the wilderness without his guidance." With those words, the people's hearts steadied, hoping to glean wisdom from their leader, whose face shone with divine purpose. Remember the miraculous signs and wonders he performed in Egypt, how he displayed his power on our behalf," Moses urged, his voice rising with conviction. "Just as he saved us from bondage, he will sustain us on the way to our inheritance." Yet the wilderness stretched dauntingly ahead, a labyrinth of trials that would test their resolve. As they embarked, the path was wild and unforgiving, lined with thorns of hardship and shadows of doubt. The sun beat down relentlessly, creating mirages of despair, and the first pangs of hunger crept into their hearts with an unsettling grip. Days turned into weeks, and the memory of the feasts in Egypt began to haunt their recollection. Whispers of discontent echoed through the camps. "Would it not have been better to remain in slavery," some murmured, "than to perish in this desolate place?" The lure of Egypt's comforts called to them, attempting to erase their joyous song and replace it with yearning for chains they once wore. Moses, sensing the rumbles of rebellion taking root, fervently prayed before the Lord, pleading for strength and direction. In the stillness, he climbed a summit, a place of communion with Yahweh, and there was a divine encounter. A voice, like the sound of rushing waters, spoke, "Behold, I will feed them bread from heaven, and they shall eat." With renewed fervor, Moses returned to the people, his heart ablaze with the Lord's promise. "Hear the word of Yahweh." He declared, "He will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a portion every day, that I may test them whether they will walk in my law or not." The people listened with wide eyes, uncertainty giving way to a glimmer of hope. Yet questions still loomed like dark clouds. What if it is not true? They wondered. What if this promise leads to more despair? Among the gathered, a small child, full of innocence and belief, tugged at her mother's garment and whispered, "If God says it, then it will be so." Her words, simple yet profound, pierced the hearts of those around her. There, amidst doubt, faith flickered into life, lighting even the darkest corners of their fear. As evening fell and the sky turned azure, the Israelites gathered, wavering between disbelief and hope. In the depths of their uncertainty, they clung to the promise of provision, blinking away tears as Moses urged them to stand firm. But within the sacred narrative, a greater truth awaited unveiling. Little did they know that each step they took further into the wilderness was not a forsaking of promises but a preparation for an incredible revelation of God's sovereignty. What surprising truths would unfold along their journey? How would Yahweh's plan weave through their trials and triumphs, ultimately leading them towards their destiny? Thus, with every fiber of their being intertwined in anticipation, they took their first steps deeper into the wild, united in worship and obedience, yet unaware of the magnificent tapestry of divine purpose yet to be revealed. And it came to pass, in the twilight of the third evening after the proclamation of manna, that the winds of the Lord stirred across the barren land. The heart of Israel, a mixture of anticipation and trepidation, found a rhythm in prayer and supplication. The people awoke each day, their eyes scanning the heavens with a yearning for fulfillment, while their stomachs echoed the groans of their longing. Moses, seeking to bolster their faith, called forth the elders of Israel. "Stand with me, O leaders of our tribes, and remind the people of the covenant of our ancestors." With hearts aligned and voices united, they recounted the promises given to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. "Yea, the Lord spake unto our fathers, saying, To your descendants I will give this land." The weight of their history, rich with divine intervention, began to settle over them anew. The following morning, as the sun's light pierced the horizon, a dew lay upon the ground. The people gathered, their eyes wide with wonder, for as the dew melted, a fine, flake-like substance appeared, glistening like frost over the desert floor. "Manna," they exclaimed, hearts swelling with unexpected joy. "What is it?" They wondered aloud, marveling at the miraculous sight. Manna, which means, "What is it?" Their confusion transformed into eager haste as they gathered the nourishing gift from heaven, yet amid the celebration, doubt still lingered. Some questioned, "Is this bread of heaven truly a test, or a fleeting shadow of sustenance?" The fears echoed like haunting melodies, but Moses urged them with unwavering faith. "Do not fear, for this is a gift from our God, who is faithful to his promises," he reiterated. "Gather it each morning, enough for that day, as he commanded." As the days passed, there was a rhythm established among the people. They learned to trust in Yahweh's provision. The manner of preparation became a sacred act of connection to the divine, an acknowledgement of their dependence on the one who had delivered them from bondage. They shared the gathered portions, each household blessed with enough to sustain them, and there was no lack, yet some, driven by greed and distrust, disregarded Moses' command, hoarding the manna for themselves. Upon morning's light, the spoils bred worms and stank, teaching a valuable lesson of reliance upon God alone. Through these trials, they could see the Lord's mighty hand shaping their lives, forging a people who would stand in obedience, ready for the promise ahead. In the silence of a later day, as the people ate their bread, they began to sing of their deliverance. We are a people chosen. We are a people fed by his hand. The melody rose, transforming their camp into a sanctuary of praise. Each note echoed through the desert, reaching the heavens above. Even as they celebrated divine provision, the heart of Moses grew heavy. This is but the beginning, he murmured in prayer, for what lies ahead is unknown and full of uncertainties. Yet, in the depths of his spirit, a whisper came, urging him to prepare. Tell my people, Israel, spoke Yahweh with a voice like thunder hidden in gentle caresses, that these lessons are but the threshold to my everlasting covenant. Moses, enveloped in awe and humility, felt the weight of future revelations descend upon him, pleading for him to share, and thus, night fell, and the stars twinkled with promise as God's truth wove through the fabric of their hearts. But they were yet unaware that the wilderness was not a mere passage, but a divine stage for the greatest encounter with Yahweh, the steadfast, unchanging promise igniting a longing that would draw every heart to a closer understanding of his glory. What deeper revelations awaited them? What divine purpose soared overhead, poised to reveal itself in the unfolding journey? The very heavens seemed to hold their breath, for the greatest mysteries of God's sovereign plan were yet to be unveiled, and the journey toward destiny was only just beginning. And it came to pass, on the morrow after the great revelry, that the Lord spoke again unto Moses, saying, Gather the people together, and I will reveal unto them the statutes and ordinances which they must walk in as they journey through the wilderness. So Moses called all the congregation of the children of Israel and said unto them, Hear, O Israel. Give ear unto the words of the Lord your God. You are a holy people, chosen for his glory, and he desires that you walk in his ways. The people gathered as one, their hearts beating in unison, an expectant hush settling upon the camp. The cloud of the Lord came down upon the mountain, enveloping it in his magnificence and power. Thunder rumbled in the distance, a reminder of the Almighty's presence. And lo, the mountain quaked, as if it itself was crying out for the revelation of divine truth. Moses ascended the mountain, approaching the thick darkness where God dwelt. His heart raced as the sound of a trumpet grew louder, signifying the descent of Yahweh. Fear not, he spoke to the people, for God has come to test you, that his fear may be before your faces, that you sin not. As Moses stood before the majesty of the Lord, he was enveloped in awe. The voice of the Lord echoed like a rushing wind, proclaiming his laws and commandments, the foundation of his covenant with Israel. Indeed, he declared, Ye shall have no other gods before me, and in that moment, the weight of his holiness ignited a fearsome reverence among the people below. The hearts of Israel trembled as they heard the voice of the Lord speaking from the fire and smoke, and they stood afar, crying out, Moses, speak to us, and we will hear, but let not God speak to us, lest we die. Moses, filled with zeal and fear of the Lord, assured them, Do not be afraid, for God has come to test you. Yet, internally, Moses pondered the power of this divine encounter. The commandments were given a blueprint for life woven with threads of love and righteousness, setting forth the divine order that his people were to follow. Days passed, and the people sought the Lord earnestly amid the wilderness, their hearts eager for his presence. They learned to depend upon him not only for their daily bread of manna but also for guidance, for wisdom. Each morning became a testament to his faithfulness, every night, a celebration of his grace, a divine rhythm emerging from the chaos of the desert. Then one night, as the moon cast its silvery glow upon the tents, the people gathered at the foot of the mountain. Moses, bathed in the stillness, came forth, holding the tablets of stone in his hands. When he raised them above his head, their eyes widened with reverence and expectancy. The commandments were not mere rules, they were the heart of their relationship with the Creator. See, O Israel, he cried, the Lord has given us his law, not as a burden but as a guide to living in covenant with him." The people responded with one voice, saying, "All that the Lord has spoken we will do." Their commitment resonated through the land, unifying them under his divine purpose, but even in their fervor, shadows of doubt flickered. Some murmured, "Will we keep these commandments? Can we live by the words of the Lord?" With hearts heavy with this new responsibility and the weight of their promises, the elders met under the stars that night, a hallowed assembly of voices and visions. Moses sought the Lord, and the whisper of guidance came sweetly to him. "Their journey will be a testament, I shall reveal my glory among them, and through them, I shall be known to all nations." Yet, challenges lay ahead, a land flowing with milk and honey, but filled also with giants and fortified cities. The next phase of their journey beckoned, riddled with trials that would test their faith and shape their destiny, and thus, as the dawn approached, the stars faded to herald another day of divine purpose unfolding. Unbeknownst to them, a whisper in the wind foretold, "Prepare your hearts, for I will show wonders beyond comprehension." This wilderness journey was but the beginning, and the true revelation of God's sovereign plan awaited just beyond the horizon. And it came to pass that in the days that followed the giving of the commandments, the Spirit of the Lord descended upon the camp, and the people were moved to worship. They gathered around the tabernacle of meeting, their offerings laid before the Lord with a heart bent towards praise. With every chord of praise, a remembrance arose, recounting the deliverance from Egypt, the parting of the Red Sea, and the sweet waters of Marah. The lyrics of their hymns soared as incense, drawing closer the presence of the one who had chosen them. Moses, surrounded by elders of Israel, convened them, saying, "Let us prepare our hearts before the Lord, for he is holy, and he desires worship in spirit and in truth." The people nodded in agreement, their faces alight with devotion, readying themselves to enter into a deeper communion with their God. Amidst their preparation, the Lord spoke to Moses again, saying, "I am the Lord your God, and I have separated you from the nations. You shall not conform to their ways but walk in the path that I have set before you." The words echoed in Moses' heart, revealing divine purpose, teaching the children of Israel to be a nation of priests, a holy people reflecting his glory among all peoples. Then the Lord directed Moses, "Let each family bring forth a lamb, pure and without blemish, for a feast of remembrance." Obediently, the people looked among their flocks, selecting the best of their lambs, for this was a holy offering unto the Lord. They gathered under the rising sun, the morning dew glistened like jewels upon their offerings, and the air buzzed with anticipation. That day, Moses instructed the people in the ways of the sacrificial offerings. "This shall be a testimony unto you," he declared, "a lasting covenant I make with you. As you partake, remember my deliverance and my mercy." The people listened intently, for the significance of the lamb became etched in their hearts. It pointed beyond the present, foreshadowing the greater sacrifice yet to come. As the sun set, the celestial tapestry unfolded above, and there arose a flame upon the altar, consuming the sacrifice. This offering was a sweet aroma unto Yahweh, enveloping the camp in a crimson glow, as if heaven itself witnessed the covenant sealed. In the quiet of the night, under the canopy of stars, a stillness settled upon the congregation. Each heart beat as one with a newfound awareness of their identity as God's chosen people. Yet, as night deepened, a weight pressed upon them, eyes flickered with uncertainty. A hushed voice echoed, "Will we walk the path he has set? Can we truly trust in his plan?" With a heavy heart, Moses turned to the Lord, who spoke again with clarity, "Tell the people to be steadfast, for I will perform wonders among them. When they are weary and their spirit falters, remind them of the Lamb, for through this remembrance, I will renew their strength." The dawn arose, and the people felt a measure of hope infused within them, yet the journey ahead loomed large. Giants lay in wait on the horizon, their presence a daunting reality against the promise of land flowing with milk and honey. But the Lord's command was clear, "Construct a tabernacle among them, that my presence may dwell in their midst, for my glory shall guide them through the wilderness." Moses, gaining a renewed determination, rallied the people, urging them to bring forth their offerings of gold, silver, and cloth, each one contributing to the dwelling place of God among them. Thus, they labored with joy, their hands working feverishly, the ringing of hammers providing a rhythm to the sacred intent. In this act of worship and obedience, a holy anticipation hung in the air. and as the final stitch was placed, a shadow of divine promise echoed through the camp. Unbeknownst to the people, the greatest wonders were yet to come. The land of promise awaited, filled with challenges greater than they knew, but God's faithfulness assured them, "Behold, I am with you, and in this season of preparation, I shall establish my covenant to fulfill a purpose that is far beyond what you can comprehend." And it came to pass, after the tabernacle was completed and erected in the midst of the camp, that a cloud descended from heaven and covered the tent of meeting. The glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle, and Moses was unable to enter because of the cloud of glory that filled the place. Yet the people stood at a distance, their eyes fixed upon the sight, filled with awe and trembling before the mighty presence of God. The Lord spoke once more to Moses from within the cloud, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, when any of you brings an offering to the Lord, let it be from the livestock, from the herd or from the flock. For I desire not the flesh but the spirit, I seek hearts that are contrite and humble." Moses relayed the words of the Lord to the people, and they were convicted in their hearts. "Let us bring offerings of praise," they proclaimed, "for he has redeemed us, and his mercies are new every morning." They gathered together as one, each offering their best to the Lord: golden jewelry, fine linens, oils and spices, as every generous heart led them. As offerings ascended, Moses returned to the tent of meeting, and a voice as gentle as a whisper enveloped him, "Moses, my servant, you are to sanctify the people. Let them wash their garments and prepare their hearts, for on the third day I will come down upon Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. They shall be a peculiar treasure unto me." The anticipation of a sacred encounter grew heavy in the air. The people, trembling at the thought of being in the presence of the Lord, exclaimed, "All that the Lord has spoken, we will do." Yet they felt an underlying fear of the unknown. Apprehension painted across their faces as they pondered the holiness of the God who would meet them. On the appointed day, as the sun began to rise, a thick cloud covered the mountain, and thunder rolled from its heights. Flashes of lightning illuminated the sky, and the sound of a trumpet grew louder and louder, stirring the hearts of all who were gathered. Moses led the people to the foot of the mountain, where they halted in reverent awe. The earth trembled, and the voice of the Lord pierced through the darkness, declaring the commandments that were to govern their lives. "I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me." The people fell to their knees, trembling yet captivated by the weight of God's presence, as their only thoughts were of his holiness and their need for mercy. Amidst the trembling, a new sense of purpose began to stir. In their hearts they understood, they were not merely to exist in the wilderness, but to become a light to the nations, reflecting the glory of the God who had called them. Moses, feeling the urgency of the moment, came down from the mountain, his face radiant with the glory of God. The people looked upon him with fear and wonder, for they did not fully comprehend the power of the covenant being established. Yet, among them, there remained a whisper and undercurrent of doubt, for some questioned in their hearts, "Will we truly be able to obey?" The Lord, knowing their hearts, spoke to Moses, saying, "Prepare them, for I will reveal my name anew, and in this revelation, they will learn a sacred truth. In their weakness, my strength will be made perfect." And as the echo of God's voice faded amongst the mountains, another promise lingered, for beyond the law laid down, a more profound mystery awaited them. "For behold, the Lord continued, the day will come when I will establish a new covenant, and I shall write my laws upon their hearts." Thus, the congregation stood, their eyes onward, filled with a longing to understand their role in the unfolding of God's incredible plan, for what they did not know was that the greatest act of divine love was yet to unfold, and a Savior was to come, heralding hope to all nations. And it came to pass, on the fourth day, that the people of Israel awoke with a holy expectancy in their hearts. The sun rose upon the mountain, illuminating its peaks and casting a golden light upon the camp, yet the fear of the Lord weighed heavily upon them. Moses called all the congregation to gather near as he ascended once more the slopes of Sinai, his spirit yearning to commune with God. As he approached the summit, the cloud descended again in fury, enveloping the mountain and filling the air with a fragrant smoke of incense. The Lord's voice thundered amidst the tempest, saying, "Moses, draw near, for I have much to reveal. Write these commandments upon stone tablets, they are the foundation of the covenant between me and my people." Moses obeyed, and his hands trembled as he inscribed the sacred words. "You shall not make for yourself a carved image," the Lord proclaimed, "for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God." The sound resonated not only in the valleys but echoed deep within the souls of the people, igniting both a reverence and an inner conviction. Meanwhile, the multitude waited below, their eyes cast upward, filled with uncertainty and fear. "Moses has tarried on the mountain," they murmured among themselves. "What shall we do? Who will lead us now?" Their hearts swayed like reeds in the wind, caught between faith and doubt. With each whispered concern, a seed of rebellion began to take root. That I in the absence of Moses, the people sought Aaron, saying, "Make us gods that shall go before us, for we know not what has become of this Moses who brought us from the land of Egypt." Fear gripped their hearts, and they longed for something tangible, yet in their haste, they turned away from the one true God. Aaron, feeling the weight of their desperation, yielded and said, "Break off the golden earrings from your ears, and bring them to me." The people complied, their gold and treasures melted down into a calf, which they crafted into an idol. They proclaimed, "These are your gods, O Israel, which brought you up from the land of Egypt." A great cloud of sorrow filled the heart of the Lord as he spoke to Moses, saying, "Go down quickly, for your people whom you brought out of Egypt have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside from my ways and made for themselves a molten image." The Lord's anger burned against them, and he declared, "I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people." Moses, hearing the weight of judgment, implored the Lord, saying, "O Lord, turn from your fierce wrath, and remember your promises to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. May your covenant endure." His heart was heavy, burdened not only for the people but for the glory of God's name in the sight of the nations. With newfound resolve, Moses descended the mountain, tablets in hand, his heart a tapestry of fear and love entwined. As he neared the camp, he beheld the people dancing and reveling around the golden calf, a sight that ignited righteous anger within him. He cast the tablets to the ground, shattering them at the foot of the mountain. "What have you done?" he cried out, anguish filling his voice. The dance halted, and silence fell upon the congregation, for in his fury, they saw the reflection of God's holiness. Yet in that moment, Moses stood as a mediator, fervently petitioning for their forgiveness. "Lord," he said, "if you will forgive their sin, blot me out of your book. But if not, then let your judgment fall upon me." And in the stillness that followed, the heavens seemed to hold their breath, for the mystery of God's redemptive plan loomed ever closer, as the Lord spoke to Moses once more. "Truly, I shall visit their iniquity, yet I will show mercy to whom I shall show mercy. For even now, my covenant shall be restored, and I will write my laws upon their hearts anew." What the people had not yet grasped was that the true deliverance would not only come from law but through grace, and soon a greater revelation awaited. A shadow of things to come loomed heavy in the air, for the promise of a Redeemer would be forged in the light of his divine love and unfathomable forgiveness. And it came to pass that the people trembled, for they stood before Moses, their faces pale with fear and guilt. They knew their idolatry had provoked the anger of the Lord, and fear gripped their hearts where once hope had flourished. Moses, filled with compassion, urged them to consider the gravity of their transgression and sought to guide them back to the true worship of Yahweh. "Return to the Lord," he pleaded, voice resonating amidst the silence, "for he is a God of forgiveness and mercy. Our help and strength lie in him alone." As he spoke, the Spirit stirred among the people, whispering in their hearts a longing for redemption. The rumblings of discontent quelled, giving way to a tentative hope, a flicker of faith rekindled. Yet, the Lord spoke to Moses from the depths of the cloud, saying, "I will not go with you, for you are a stiff-necked people. I may consume you in the way." Fear seized Moses' heart, for the weight of this divine decree was heavy and wrought with consequence. He prostrated himself before the Lord, imploring, "If your presence does not go with me, do not bring us up from here. For how shall it be known that you, Lord, are with your people unless you go with us?" The Lord, moved by Moses' humility and earnest intercession, replied, "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." Relief flowed like a mountain stream through the congregation's hearts, for they grasped the depths of God's willingness to dwell among them despite their failure. In the days that followed, Moses gathered the elders of Israel, reminding them of the covenant God had established with their forefathers. "You shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation," he recited, invoking a renewed sense of purpose among them. They were called to represent God to the nations, a light amidst the darkness. The people, seeking to atone for their sins, gathered their treasures to offer up a freewill offering, proclaiming, "Let us build a sanctuary that the Lord may dwell among us." Their hearts, once hardened by rebellion, softened in reverence as they labored with fervor, establishing a place for the Almighty to inhabit. Overwhelmed by a spirit of unity, they raised their voices in praise and thanksgiving, striving to honor Yahweh who had remained steadfast. Moses returned once again to the summit of Sinai, where the Lord awaited, drawing nearer with reverence to the one whose glory shone brighter than the sun. Upon that sacred mountain, the Lord renewed the covenant and instructed Moses to chisel out new tablets. "For I will write my laws upon them, as I shall write upon their hearts," he declared, sealing the promise of a faithful God. As Moses descended, his face shone with the radiance of God's glory, a reflection of the communion he had experienced. The people were awestruck, unable to gaze fully upon him, afraid of the holiness displayed so vividly. He spoke to them of God's commands and the eternal covenant promised anew, stirring their spirits with hope, yet a great weight still lingered. The cost of disobedience. Days turned into weeks, and the memories of a golden calf lingered, as they shaped their new identities in Yahweh's love and guidance. Yet, in Moses' heart, there engraved a profound understanding that the nearness of God would come at a price, and the path to redemption would not cease with mere law. In the distance, the shadow of the ultimate sacrifice began to stir even then, awaiting the moment when the fullness of God's plan would be revealed in the form of a Redeemer, one who would perfectly embody grace and truth. Thus, the people, while slowly healing, remained oblivious to the deeper journey ahead, for within their struggle lay the promise of a covenant that would outshine the glow of Mount Sinai, a salvation that would come through a veil of sacrificial love and redeeming grace. And it came to pass that the people, having heard the renewal of the covenant, approached Moses with great urgency, their hearts aflame with a desire to be wholly devoted to the Lord. "Teach us, O servant of the Most High," they cried out, "how we may walk in his ways and deepen our worship." Moses, feeling the weight of their longing, gathered the people by the foot of Mount Sinai once more. With his voice like thunder, he proclaimed the commandments of the Lord, as instructed, reminding them of the sacred statutes they were to uphold. "You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image nor any likeness of anything that is in heaven above or on the earth beneath." As the words resonated in the hearts of the Israelites, they were reminded of their past, and their voices trembled in unison, "We will do all that the Lord has spoken." Yet, Moses discerned that their commitment, while fervent, was but a reflection of their fear rather than a steadfast resolve born from love and trust. "Do not be afraid," Moses encouraged them, sensing their trepidation. "For God has come to test you, that the fear of him may be before you, so that you may not sin." In this moment, the people understood that the holiness of God didn't dwell merely in fear but also in the deep reverence that emerged from a heart transformed by grace. Yet, even as they declared their allegiance, the Lord spoke again to Moses amidst the thunder and lightning, revealing profound truths that would descend like rain. "Tell the people to prepare their hearts, for I offer them more than mere commandments. I offer them companionship." Moses listened intently as the Lord articulated his desire to dwell among his people, not just in a sanctuary made of earthly materials but in the very essence of their lives. "I shall be your God, and you shall be my people. The hearts of men will be my throne, and I will write my law upon their very souls." With this revelation, the people's hearts began to stir as new understanding broke forth like dawn after long darkness. They grasped the depth of Yahweh's love, who had chosen them as his own, despite their wanderings. "Let us then prepare," they proclaimed, "for we shall construct the dwelling place of God not with bricks alone, but with hearts of flesh." The spirit of commitment ignited within them anew, kindling a flame that was fueled by love rather than fear. As Moses continued to intercede, the clouds parted, and the glory of the Lord enveloped Sinai in a thick cloud of divine presence. The mountains trembled, for the unseen realm was bursting forth into the visible. Here, everything was to be made sacred. Remember, the Lord instructed, that your worship should be a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto me. In that moment, he ordained a series of sacrifices, symbols of the coming Redeemer, who would embody the ultimate offering. Moses, understanding that these rituals were but shadows of things to come, felt the burden of revelation lay heavily upon him. The promise of restoration and redemption were intertwined with their daily acts of worship, weaving a narrative that reached beyond generations, and the conviction gripped him as he considered that within these rituals lay the echoes of grace, a divine sacrifice that would one day change the course of humanity. For even then, in the shadow of the law, the heart of God yearned to unveil his redemptive plan. Thus, the people, while inspired to build a sanctuary of their lives unto the Lord, were unaware of the grand tapestry that God was weaving, for every sacrifice, every act of obedience, pointed toward a greater truth yet to be revealed, a promise fulfilled in the blood of the Lamb, the one who would bear the sins of the world. But what they did not yet fathom was that the very essence of their worship would call forth the ultimate revelation of grace, culminating in the glorious manifestation of divine love, wrapping itself in flesh, ready to redeem a fractured world. And so it came to pass that the days turned into months, and the people of Israel grew in their devotion to Yahweh. Each morning, they gathered, recounting his marvelous deeds, recollecting the miracles that had led them through the wilderness. They were a people awakening to purpose, their hearts attuned to the whispers of their Creator. The law given became a guide, not a burden, inspiring rhythms of holiness in their journey. Yet, the shadows of despair still lingered, as doubts occasionally rose like clouds on the horizon of faith. As they traveled deeper into the wilderness, an awe-inspiring sight unfolded before them. A figure appeared, radiant with divine light, the angel of the Lord. He stood upon the mountaintop, a vision of glory encircled in a blaze, symbolizing the promise of God that guided them onward. The people gazed upwards, their hearts stirred with wonder and reverence as the heavenly proclamation rang forth, "Fear not, for I am with you. I shall dwell in your midst." A thrill surged through the congregation as Moses, eager to lead them into this new revelation, raised his hands and guided them in worship. The melody of their praises echoed against the rocky cliffs, resounding with their faith, cleansing their doubts. "We will trust in you, O Lord. You have delivered us, you will deliver us still." In the midst of their celebration, the Lord spoke to Moses yet again, saying, "Prepare the people, for I shall reveal my glory among them in a way they have not seen. They shall know that I am the Lord their God, who has brought them forth from bondage into the light of truth." With these words, Moses gathered the leaders of the tribes, imploring them to turn their faces unto Yahweh, to seek him fervently, for he longed to pour out his Spirit upon the children of Israel. And the elders, hearts ignited with conviction, called the people to repentance. They besought them to lay down their burdens, to release the sin that bent their backs, their hearts resonating with a longing for freshness in their faith. And then, on a day marked in the celestial calendar, a shroud of glory covered the camp. The tempestuous winds gathered as a cloud descended, rich with the essence of the Almighty. Thunder rolled like a drumbeat, and the earth trembled underfoot. The presence of the Lord enveloped them, a divine confirmation that he was indeed among them, revisiting the narrative of his covenant. In astonished reverence, the people fell upon their faces, fear and adoration interweaving as words of praise stuttered from their lips. "You are holy, O God. You are mighty to save." Their anguish turned to joy as they embraced the weight of their trust, forging anew a bond with the Creator. Yet amid their exultation, an invitation stirred. "Come, my people, draw nearer," Yahweh beckoned, "that I may reveal the depth of my covenant." Moses ascended once more to the summit, his heart fluttering with anticipation, awaiting the deeper truths the Lord would unveil. As he drew near, the voice of the Lord thundered, commanding him to listen. "I shall give you a new commandment," he declared. "Love one another as I have loved you. In this shall all the nations know you are my disciples." Moses trembled at the weight of this revelation. The spirit of the law now breathed with life, a call deeper than mere obedience, inviting a profound relationship defined by love. He descended, face shining with radiance, proclaiming the new covenant to the people. "This is the essence of our faith. Love is now our guiding principle." His voice rose above the murmurs of disbelief as they collectively grasped the import of this command. The hearts of Israel filled with light as they prepared to embrace a legacy that would reach beyond their generation. As they journeyed forward, the Lord continued to show them wondrous signs, feeding them with heavenly manna, providing water from the rock, and guiding them with a cloud by day and fire by night. Each divine encounter reaffirmed his promise that though the wilderness was vast and treacherous, his presence would always be there. Sustenance, and his heart would forever be with them. Days turned into years, the wilderness transforming them from a scattered group into a nation, a people of covenant, bound together by love and holiness. They became witnesses of his grace, a light unto the nations. Each moment of worship, every act of obedience, pointed towards the fulfillment of an ultimate destiny, the coming of the Messiah, and in this profound journey, the whisper of what was to come began to emerge, telling how their struggles and triumphs would touch the world's heart in ways they could not yet fathom. A Redeemer awaited, one who would embody this very love, bridging heaven and earth. Thus, they journeyed forth, more than merely wanderers, they were transformed kingdom bearers driven by faith, hope, and love. United under the banner of the Most High, each step in the wilderness was an exercise in believing the great promise of Yahweh. Let this, dear reader, be an invitation to your own journey, a call to live within the fullness of His love. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you will not miss any of these powerful biblical stories. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm. Comment your spiritual reflections and how this biblical narrative impacted your faith. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. Don't wait even one more second, for only believers understand the importance of supporting biblical content to reach souls for Christ.